Hello everybody, I am back. Apologies for being a couple of minutes late. Ironically, considering the topic we're talking today, I realised just now that my iPhone battery was low, so I've had to rearrange some things to be able to charge while I'm chatting to you guys. But as per the title and as per the irony there in my non-charged battery, I want to talk to you a little bit about recharging our batteries today. So I'm very energy and power focused today, and I'll explain why in a moment. But hopefully you guys know by now, my name's Anna Lundberg. I'm a success coach and business strategist, and I'm really passionate about helping people create more freedom, flexibility and fulfillment in their lives. And at the moment, as maybe you've seen on the blog and here in the group and a little bit everywhere really, I'm talking a lot about well-being. And as I wrote on the blog this week, and as I babbled on in last week's Facebook Live video, I was talking a lot about my migraines that I've been managing and trying to manage over the years. So for me, that's a really sort of personal health issue really that I've been dealing with, and of course isn't made better by working hard and sitting at my desk and so on. Hello Serena, good to see you. So for me, it's such a personally important question. If you've been following my community for a while, you'll also be familiar with my 5 L's model of reimagining success. And that's all about broadening our perspective beyond the traditional, conventional, narrow focus on work and career and sort of the achievement-focused goals, and broadening out to all the other different areas that are important in our lives. So that's romance and relationships, it's learning and growing, it's having fun and adventures and so on. It's making a career in the sense of really having an impact and doing meaningful work. And it is also well-being. And in that model, I always talk about well-being being the foundation for all the other areas. And I've come really to this realization relatively recently. Maybe you guys knew this before, but unfortunately I think even though it's so fundamental to everything, and by the way, the way we come to realize this is often because we burn out, we have some kind of health crisis. Unfortunately we usually we need a slap in the face to recognize how important this is. We don't realize how important our health is until we don't have it anymore. But it's such a foundation to everything else that it should really come first. And yet, unfortunately, it often comes last. And actually, working with my clients, especially recently, and maybe it's just because I've raised my own awareness, I'm realizing that a lot of my clients are also wanting to restructure their lives to prioritize, to be able to prioritize, to choose to prioritize well-being first and foremost, along with other personal priorities like family and relationships and so on, and then build a life, a career, a business on top of that or around that and everything integrated. And that's something I believe is totally possible. It's something I'm striving for, and it's something, I'm hoping to support you guys with as well. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wrote a blog post, I shared a PDF, I'll share here as well. It's sort of a guide to a well-being strategy, as I'm calling it. I do love a good strategy. I love sort of drawing up visions and things on my whiteboard. I won't show you right now the mess it is at the moment, but lots of ideas, scribbles in my notebook. I think a strategic approach is great, whether we're talking about business goals or, to be honest, romance or health or whatever it is. And I think that's important to sort of take that more strategic approach. But I wanted to also talk a little bit about, some of the other work I'm doing, and bear with me as I go off on a bit of a tangent. But at the moment I'm doing a big marketing project which is involving looking at how different sectors, so different industries, are being disrupted by digital technology. So lots of exciting things around artificial intelligence and blockchain, if you've heard of that. It's the technology on which cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and so on is based. What else? Internet of Things, drones, all these quite exciting things. But as you can imagine, they're having huge implications for some pretty traditional, established industries and sort of big incumbent companies. And the one I'm working on at the moment is the energy sector. And it's something that I came to with very little knowledge, but it's been absolutely fascinating around, of course, electric vehicles now with the Teslas of the world, but lots more battery driven cars, electric cars, buses, and so on. And with solar and wind coming a lot more, particularly driven in Australia and China, India. The emerging markets are very advanced as well. Of course, government mandates and so on, pushing towards renewable energies and so on. But I did say I was going to go off on a tangent. I'm going to try to reel it back in a little bit. The insight that I read about today was that the grid, so the electricity grid, is based on the idea of balancing supply and demand. So consumption, production, generation and consumption, however you want to call it. And any kind of imbalance there, producing too much can exceed the, I'm not going to use the proper technical terms here, but exceed the voltages or frequencies that are allowed. And if you imagine that everybody comes home the same time every day from their 9 to 5 corporate job, they plug in their electric vehicle, they go inside, they turn the heating up, they put the kettle on, they put the laundry on, they turn on all their lighting and so on. If everybody does that at the exact same time on the entire street, boom, there's going to be an outage and blackout, and that's not really going to work on the existing infrastructure. So there's all sorts of things they need to do there in terms of introducing smart meters, and there's a lot of this talk about connected home and the Internet of Things. That's where that comes in, and these connected devices in your home, so you can really manage and control and monitor and reduce your energy consumption. So that's one piece of it. And in terms of, the other interesting part of it is that because we now are generating energy on our side too, with solar panels and so on, and even wind turbines and on some properties and so on, we're actually generating energy that goes in the other direction. So there's sort of a two-way system going on, a lot of complexities, many more actors sort of going on there, lots of devices all around the world, and so on. But this idea of balancing the energy back and forth and trying to use those smart meters and trying to avoid those peak times and so on, and the need to recharge as well, brings me back to the topic of well-being, because I realised it's very much the same for human beings. And although this particular time I hadn't charged my phone, I can assure you that I always keep my phone above 90% at least, as much as I can. Of course, a full day in London tends to make that a bit harder. But I tend to charge my phone and recharge my phone perhaps more than I recharge myself, which I think is an epidemic across the world, certainly in our countries. And I think about the care we take and, to manage our phones, and we don't really think about that for ourselves. So today, I got up early and I did some work, and then I went into town actually for a meditation session, which was all around recharging. So hence why this topic is so sort of fresh in my mind. I went for lunch with my boyfriend actually, and then I saw a friend who went for a walk along the sunny South Bank in London, and then I came back and worked. But this is the kind of day I'm trying to have now, in terms of balancing sort of the hubbub of London with that meditation session, balancing the hard work at my computer with being outside in the sunshine. And it can be a bit counterintuitive, because you think that you have, or you do have, so many deadlines and projects and things to manage, and it's impossible to imagine postponing that more, because it just becomes more of a stress, and my tension in my shoulders increases, and you just get a longer and longer to-do list. But I also heard something else today, which was if you build your business on hustle, I think the expression was, you'll create a business based on hustle. I'm sure it was more poetically phrased. But the idea being that if you are constructing a business, a life, a career, whatever it is, from the ground, based on stress and pushing yourself and not taking care of yourself and so on, if you do succeed, which I think probably you won't, but even if you do, you will succeed with creating a business that runs you into the ground, if not the business. So eventually you won't, I think, continue to feel good, you won't thrive, and your business won't thrive as a result. So again, the reason for well-being being so foundational, not just to sort of your general health and eating a bit more healthily and drinking more water and all those obvious things, but really thinking about it in that more holistic way. So I think we need to bring some more focus back to recharging our own energy, just like we do our batteries, our phones, and in the future our cars and so on, and try to think of this balancing. So we can't keep keep consuming all this energy and not then generate new energy and produce new energy. And in fact, I'm feeling very scientific and technical today because I seem to remember from physics as well that there's some kind of law of thermodynamics and all these things that you can't actually create energy, right? You can only transfer it. So if I've used energy over there, I can't suddenly, boom, have lots of new energy over here to do something else. We need to constantly be sort of balancing that and making sure that we're conserving energy, recharging, working smarter. So applying lots of those ideas and concepts and technologies from the energy sector, surprisingly, but into our lives. So with all that in mind, as I mentioned, I want to approach well-being in more of a strategic way. And when it comes to a strategy, and in fact the way I approach, my group program, for example, and a business strategy in general and a career change, that idea of the one step outside, the way we do that is first of all coming up with our vision. So that's defining what success looks like, which of course I always talk about. So what is it that well-being will bring you? What is the ultimate goal here? Why do you even care? That is the case whether you're talking about some specific, weight loss goal or something, why does that actually matter to you? How will you feel when you achieve that and so on? But also more broadly, I want to feel well, I want to thrive, I want to have the energy to play with my kids, I want to, be in a good mood for my spouse or whatever it is. So really painting a really detailed picture of why this topic, why well-being is so important to you and what that looks like. So let's say you succeed and you have optimal well-being. What does that then mean? What does that concretely look like? What is success for you? The second step in a strategy is understanding what might get in the way, what is getting in the way at the moment. And often that's very much your mindset. So it's all the things we talk about in terms of your fears, your concerns, your limiting beliefs is something we talk about a lot. So, I'm just not a sporty person. I'm always hungry. I have to eat all the time. I don't have time to do this. I've got to do this first and then I can focus on my well-being. I'm prone to migraines. That kind of sort of fact-based statement can actually be quite debilitating because it means it sort of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that if you expect, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a migraine because I'm so tense and I've got so much, and then your shoulders go like this and then eventually you get a migraine. And it's the same, if your particular sort of ailment comes in the form of a stomach ache or some other, immunity sort of, deficiency, if you get a cold or something, maybe when you're very stressed or whatever it is. And stress, of course, is sort of one of the malaises, I guess, of our society as well. So really thinking about those beliefs and mindset pieces that might be getting in the way. I've always been overweight, or I don't know how to meditate, I'm not a runner, blah, 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 all these sort of blocks that can get in the way. So what does success look like? What's your vision? What might get in the way? Those are the two things. And then the next piece is the strategy. Hurrah! So that's really how specifically you're going to achieve that vision of what you want and overcome those different barriers. So of course, simply raising your awareness of these things that can get in the way is already really helpful. Working on reframing those beliefs. We've done that exercise in the past in the group, and there's a video on YouTube around that if that's something that interests you. Reframing your perspective into something that's more focused on possibilities and so on. Addressing any kind of fears and concerns and coming up and so on, but really thinking concretely, again, what does this mean in terms of how you want to achieve that vision that you've defined. And then the next piece is the implementation. A vision, a strategy is all very nice and pretty up on the board, but unless you actually anchor it in your day-to-day, that's not really going to make a difference in your life. So it's always about, and again, whether you want to write a book, you need to write every day. If you want to start a business, you need to work on certain elements in the business, so it's all about taking consistent action every day. So what are the actions you're going to take? Again, thinking of what can get in the way, what will you do if you feel like, I don't have time and so on. If suddenly, you think, oh no, I've got to do this project instead and so on. So what can you do to manage those pieces as well? So I'm going to be talking a lot more about the implementation and the really concrete practicalities of this next week, actually, in terms of structuring your week and implementing it in your day-to-day and so on. So I think that will be really useful and hopefully bring all this down to earth a little bit more and really make it real, and hopefully if you guys come with your questions as well and your ideas as to how to make it work in your day to day, that would be really great, because of course we all have very different needs and so on, but hopefully the questions and ideas we raise will be helpful. But when it comes to a strategy, so to make it a bit more concrete already, I've developed this PDF that I mentioned. So it's a few pages, sort of a guide in terms of outlining the different areas that I think we need to be thinking about, and then letting you sort of build up your own individual strategy that will work for you in terms of what it means for you. And when I'm talking about well-being in a more strategic sense, I also think it needs to be in a more holistic sense. So I keep throwing out, eat a bit better and do some more exercise, and that is where our mind tends to go. And I have to admit, over the years, that's certainly been what I thought was important. And recently I've been eating very well and I've always drunk lots of water my entire life. So I'm doing a lot of the basic things right, and then there are other levels on top of that. So the first level is absolutely your physiological needs. So that's something like in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's really the base. It is the nutrition that you're getting, it's the water, it's avoiding those artificial stimulants. I do drink coffee, but you have to have some kind of vice in life, and that's something that I would like to give up eventually. But it's really taking care of your body and your basic physical needs. But for me, it's an important foundation, but it is only the foundation of the foundation, as it were. The next piece is more sort of your head, your brain, super important for me, as I keep saying with my migraines, taking breaks from your computer, going out in nature, addressing those actually fears and beliefs and so on, I think is a really important part of that sort of head piece. So body and head. And then your heart. So again, going back to Maslow's hierarchy, which has really inspired me here, he talks a lot about the need for belonging and love, really, and that's of course part of the 5 L's as well. But our relationships and connections with other people, feeling part of something, whether it's a local community or something bigger in the world, a family, whatever your family looks like. And that kind of love and connection is really important to our well-being. And feeling isolated, feeling alone, not having someone to talk to at the most basic level, that can be really a huge problem and can in worst cases lead to some mental health issues. So making sure that you have someone to talk to if there is an issue, and at a higher level being able to sort of work with someone to whether it's support in your business or a personal trainer in the gym or whatever it is, but getting the help you need and connecting with other people, having kind of that social support and family and so on. And those sort of bases of the pyramid really kind of give you, I guess, a neutral well-being. I think if you've got that, you're quite healthy and you've got a good life and so on, and it's on top of that then we can build sort of the upper echelons of what you want to achieve and true well-being, I think. And so with that in mind, the next piece for me is your mind, and that's all about learning and growing and creativity and getting inspired and reading and taking courses, working with a coach to improve whatever area and all these things. So really taking things to a higher level, and that kind of opening, broadening your mind, traveling, adventures and so on. And that's sort of a different level of well-being that comes on top of those basic physiological and so on aspects. And then the peak of the pyramid for me is really something which I'm calling soul. And, whether we're religious or not, I think there's some deeper yearning for something that's bigger than us, some kind of meaning, some purpose. And I often refer to Viktor Frankl's book, which was Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Holocaust survivor, and he found that it was really having a meaning in your life that helped people, of course, with many other circumstances playing, and especially luck and so on, but gave them a purpose, a reason to survive. So whether that was, to publish a paper when they got out of the camp, or to look after their wife and children because they didn't know, I'm getting goosebumps, it's a horrible thing to talk about, but the book is fantastic and talks about, of course, his horrific experiences. But this idea of meaning being so much more powerful and fulfillment so much more significant than just happiness or something like that. So that's sort of the upper part of the well-being really, and it's something that's incredibly individual. There's no list of questions or anything I can give to you, and I don't think it's about finding the meaning of life. It's not about finding the purpose and putting pressure on yourself to find your one true calling in life. That's not what it's about. But I think it's striving for something that's bigger than you, something that's more meaningful and so on. So those are sort of the different levels. Just a very brief introduction, but the PDF that I'll link to has a lot more detail on those and some really specific questions there. But I guess to make it a little little bit more concrete, just to sort of illustrate the things that can happen when you're a bit disconnected. And as I was saying, if I have this base of eating well, drinking lots of water and so on, I've got sort of the physical base, I'm exercising and so on. But if I'm not taking breaks from the computer, if I'm not getting the support I need for the business or whatever it is, then sort of the middle part of that pyramid is breaking down. Or when I took a sabbatical originally from my job many years ago, travelled across South America, I was sort of really playing at the top there. I was all over the place in South America. I was meeting people, I was reading, I was listening to podcasts, I was learning, I was thinking, I was writing and so on. And yet, as I wrote in my blog post called The Get Fat with Anna Diet, I was not eating very healthily. The bottom of that pyramid was certainly not in place. And, I guess I was drinking water, but, perhaps for, health reasons, I was having to get bottled water and so on. I was eating a lot of carbohydrates, the dulce de leche, pancakes, lots of sort of starchy stuff. And I certainly gained a lot of weight there. And so my basic health wasn't good, even though bizarrely I had sort of the top part. So you can be both top heavy and sort of bottom heavy, or even hollow in the middle. But for me, it's a piece of sort of striving for these different elements. So I hope I'm not complicating things here. I hope this makes sense. I hope it will make sense when you read through the guide. And the idea, again, is to take a more strategic, first of all, and a more focused and holistic view of well-being. Because I just don't think it's enough to just, now and then do some exercise and eat a bit better. And again, talking to people in the group here and so on, I think a lot of you agree with me that this is a really important area and some of these messages have resonated. So I'm hoping you're coming along with me for the journey here and, as we explore what well-being means to us and how we can really define that and then anchor it in our lives. And as I said, so next week we'll be looking more at sort of the practicalities of it, but I think always, as you know, I like to start with defining what success looks like. So getting really clear on what well-being means. And I can't really show you my my whiteboard over there, but I've done, in fact, I'll show you the, just to give you a bit of a glimpse of the PDF that you'll be getting, and probably this is now back to front, but you can see it's a pyramid, and it has here at the bottom body, head, heart, mind, soul, and you'll be able to then write the different things in there that are meaningful to you for these things. So for example, in body, I have doing HIIT and running and yoga. I have, what else do I have? Well, focusing on nutrition in rather than cutting out particular food groups. Drinking lots of water, which I don't have to worry about, as I said, but cutting down perhaps on coffee and diet drinks and so on, alcohol if that's a problem as well. And then head, as I said, taking breaks from my computer, making sure I go outside every day and managing my migraines in my case. Heart is all around spending time with the people who matter in my life. And again, whether it's talking to someone because you need to sort of vent something, or you need support, or just quality time with your kids, with your partner, with your friends and siblings and parents and so on. Mind, again, that's not really a problem area for me because that's all I ever do really is read and learn, and I'm so sort of hungry for knowledge, and I'm listening to podcasts all the time, and my whole business is sort of pushing forward to try to learn things and be creative and so on. So I even made a snow lady the other week, as I said, so I got out and played a little bit outside in the snow as well. And then the soul, which I guess is quite personal, but you can imagine in terms of what I'm doing in the business and so on, what's important to me and what I'm striving for, and of course that will evolve in the future. But so the guide has some details on each of those levels, and there's this template at the end that you can fill in. And as I said, I've drawn mine up actually on a whiteboard, so I can add to that as I go as well. But I hope that is of interest and useful. Have a play around with it. All these things that I give to you, by the way, please don't stick religiously to them. If you find that something works for you, then run with it. If you want to modify it, then do that. If you hate it, if you find it useless, I would still encourage you to try. I always say be open to it, bring your curiosity and see how it works for you. But certainly, please take what helps you and leave the rest. And there'll be much more to come as well. So As I said, next week we'll be looking more practically in terms of implementing these ideas and really linking it back to a business specifically. If you're not building a business, it can still be relevant because it'll be still, you know, for building a life and a career really, although I'll be looking specifically when you're constructing and building and growing a profitable business. If you have any questions in the meantime, of course, let me know. If you have time to go through this guide before then, of course, that would be helpful because then you'll have already these kinds of ideas in place so that we can get really specific next week as well, and we'll be continuing with wellbeing for another couple of weeks as well. So in general as well, do let me know if there are any questions, any places you're getting stuck. Getting lots of questions over in the group program. We're creating lots of new resources over there, but here as well, if you have any questions, anything I can help you with, and in particular of course this area of wellbeing, then that would be great. So it's 8:30 here in the UK. I've had quite a long day. As I said, I've built in walks along the sunshine, the river, some nice meals and fresh air and quite a bit of work as well. But I think it's time for me to shut down my laptop to recharge my computer, phone and body batteries. I'll go to bed quite early tonight and then wake up fresh tomorrow morning and start a new day. So thank you for watching. Hope you found that interesting. I'll put the link to the document. The document, it doesn't sound very fun, does it? The lovely, beautiful, pretty guide for you, the wellbeing strategy PDF for you. And I'd love to hear your comments and feedback, and hopefully see you guys again live next week. So thanks so much for watching, and talk to you soon. Have a lovely week.